Hello and welcome to the Conversations with My Daughters, another episode. And today we are talking all things money. How to earn it, ask for it, and own your worth. With a powerhouse guest who walks this talk every day, I would take you through some of her experiences, but I'll first introduce who Mari is. Mari Lee is an award-winning marketing and communication strategist, a businesswoman with deep roots in Africa, and a champion for social and financial empowerment. With over 55 international awards under her belt, she's not only a master of her craft, she's also made it her mission to help others rise. Through her circle of sisters, Mari has spent over a decade coaching women on financial freedom, from the basics of budgeting to the boldness of negotiating. She's passionate about helping women break free from limiting situations and environments by becoming financially empowered and eventually independent. And she's well on her way, on her own path to freedom too. I'm so thrilled to have her with us today to unpack real money moves we all need to make. Welcome, Mari.
Thank you. And I love money. My father was a banker, so my first money memories were so good. And I think what we believe about money is the starting point. So thrilled to be here with you this morning.
Great stuff. I love that. Who doesn't love money? So, Mari, let's start with the basics. Understanding your own worth. How can women assess their skills, contributions, and market value to the extent that they feel justified to name their price?
I think it's an art and a science, and a lot of it is based in understanding who you are as your identity, and then understanding that your roles or your skills is not who you are. So separating out my skills that are marketable, that I can exchange, and then understanding what is fair exchange. So that's the art part. The science part is then to really go into a bit of research around, if you know your skill set, there is so much data available nowadays. A quick search on the internet will give you access to salary scales, not just locally, but also globally. And then to also understand the context of the client or the employer that you are working with. And it's in those three things that there's an alchemy where you find the balance to say, this is where I'm at, this is where my company is at, this is where the market is at. And then you slowly but surely build up to where you want to be.
I love that. I love the art and science. I love how you throw in the client base as well, because when we're negotiating, more often than not, we're thinking it must always be an employer. But it is, women are in business these days, and they also need to be able to name their price in that environment as well. This for me is really very important, because with my years in human resources, I've seen this gender gap in the pay, and we still do know that for every dollar men earn, women earn 81 cents. So clearly there is something to be explored around this. So I do hear that it's around negotiating, it's around identity. Love that you are not your skill. There's you and there's a skill that you transact with. So the feeling of maybe not wanting to put a label or a tag on myself, maybe we divorce it with saying there's me, the skill. And what I'm asking for is the skill. And I happen to bring the skill.
Absolutely.
How beautiful.
So how I think about work is that work is the way that I bring my gift into the world. And for that, I get the exchange. And the exchange is not just money. That's the other thing I want to say. Often I have teenage boys and I raise them with only 4 rules. And rule number 2 is make your contribution. And your contribution is not just money. Your contribution is skills of the head, the heart, and the hand. And if you can do a very good analysis and have self-knowledge, when we met each other corporately, you knew that I was bringing value to your business measured with my dashboards. But there was also another value I was bringing, and that was when I left the room, people were motivated, productive. So that was skills of their heart. And it's very important that you understand that all of these things have value.
Great. I love that. I love that. We've spoken about practically how one can do this thing where you said there's 3 things. There's what you bring, there's where the organization is, there is the market. Nonetheless, women are still nervous. They are fearful of this negotiating. Where do you think that comes from?
I think that is a human trait. Men are just as nervous.
Love that.
So I also do a lot of counseling and work with men and women, and we are human. So you need to learn how to regulate your nervous system, and you need to know your triggers. You need to know your glimmers. And you need to, when you go into that room, have 3 key messages that you want to deliver. I think also your preparation, your calmness and how you show up in that session, your clarity in what you are asking and what you are bringing is really important. So instead of focusing on what you feel, focus on what you need to get out of this and what you need to achieve. And then I have little mantras, affirmations. So questions that I ask, and our brains are super smart. Why am I a beneficial presence? Why am I getting collaboration from people around the table with me? That's the questions I walk in with, and then they get answered.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Marie, for that. And of course, for you to be able to name the price, if we can put it at that, there has to be some financial literacy that one gets to understand, which becomes the cornerstone of our confidence. What tips do you have for women to manage their finances and plan for the future? Because I almost feel that without that clarity of where we are headed directionally on any area of our lives, finances included, we are not clear of what steps to take today. But if that is clear as day, then today's daily decisions becomes very easy to take, because it's either they support that journey or they don't. And if they don't, you drop them, you pick that which does. So what would you say around the financial literacy that women need to understand?
So the first thing is that money equals maths. And a lot of us has been raised to say, I hate maths. So I have a very simple tool that I use. And my kids have been running our family budget with this tool since they were 7 years old. That's how easy it is. It's called the leaky bucket. So you have a bucket and there's water that's streaming into that bucket, and that's your income sources. And then you have holes at the bottom of that bucket. That's your expenses. And then you have water levels that you want to keep in that bucket. You want to have savings that you never touch so they can have compound interest, and that secures your focus and your future. And you want to have emergency funds, and you want to have savings for fun. Save for something that money you touch, you use once a year, and you make your dreams come true with. And now most people are in the situation where when they do this leaky bucket, they realize what comes in is less than what goes out And then we have to live the biggest money tip I can give you is to live below your means. So ever since my first paycheck, when I was 14 and I was doing filing for my dad, I have saved half my salary and only lived off half my salary, which in my 40s now means that I am 4 years from complete financial freedom, that I never have to work again. So if you understand it, and it's a game, we make it so serious, but because I do it with a leaky bucket, it's just a game. And it's something very tangible, and you can also bring your children and your family into that. So we have a budget that's on our fridge that's a leaky bucket, and it's easy to understand what stays, what goes, what must come in.
Wow, that's rich, Marie. Thank you. And you were privileged, I must say, growing up in a household that spoke finances with your dad as a banker. A lot of us were not that fortunate. Some people grew up in homes where money was a struggle, not a conversation. And it was a struggle for the adults, not the kids. So then all of a sudden we have our own money and we do not know. So what would you say to that person who didn't have the privilege of starting at 14? Is it ever too late to strive for financial independence, or everybody can start where they are?
Absolutely, everybody can start where they are. In my circle of sisters where we do this financial empowerment for women, I've seen women go from severe debts into I can manage this, I've got this, into I'm starting to save, I'm starting to pay off my debt in as little as 6 months. The only barrier is your own fear. If you're not facing it, you can't manage it. And you can start in your 20s, but you can start in your 50s. I've got success stories from women who were divorced in their 50s with debt and have 5-6 years later retired because they took control of that situation. They asked for help. They did additional courses. There is so much financial literacy available. Your banker, your financial advisor. So it is never too late, and you're not alone. I think that's the other thing that's beautiful about us as women is that we can do this in community. And then, of course, money impacts our relationships. Like you say, your family, if you're a middle-aged woman, and black tax is a big reality. There's a book, one of my courses that I did is Money Magic by Donna McCallum. And on that course with me was Ndumi. And she wrote a book around black tax, which is not just culturally appropriate for black women. It's also culturally appropriate for any women, because all cultures have this sandwich effect where at a stage in your life you take care of your parents and you probably take care of your kids. Mm-hmm. And you probably take care of yourself only because we have such a large amount of single women in South Africa. So I want to encourage you to learn and read that book. And learn that it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to set boundaries for your parents. It's okay to set boundaries for your partner or your spouse. It's okay to set boundaries for your siblings. And it's okay to set boundaries for your kids. A lot of us sacrifice to give our kids what we didn't have. What I know for sure is that my children will make their dreams come true. You know how I know it? Because I make my dreams come true. I don't sacrifice my dreams to give them the opportunity to make their dreams come true. And then generationally, we have generation after generation sacrificing their own ambitions so that their kids can make their dreams come true. And what do? They do what their parents did. They sacrifice their dreams.
Own. Then it becomes
a vicious circle where I went to Europe and made my dreams come true. saving for myself, sometimes saying no to my kids for a PlayStation or a this or a that, because I was enabling myself. And I know now that they will do the same. They will enable themselves because they've seen my example. And that's so important, those boundaries, that knowing that your kids are going to do what you do.
How beautiful.
So important.
They never do what we tell them to, but they do what they see us doing.
Absolutely. And this is conversations with my daughters, right?
See?
So it's so important for me that our young women hear this.
And they not only hear, they see it.
Correct. They see you and me. I always say to people, what's beautiful for me and what's really important for me is to authentically live what I teach. You can come to my house. My kids have been on radio with me, to hear what are these lessons. And I live them. And I know that it's sometimes painful to put boundaries in place around money and to say no to other adults and to put the responsibility of other adults on themselves.
And especially there's this guilt of these people have done for you. And they have never set any boundaries. They have never said no with the limited knowledge they had and the limited resources that were there. So they never said no to you to the extent that they could afford. But now here you are, highly educated and coming and telling people about boundaries. So I can feel the pull in terms of how people find themselves in these situations.
Absolutely. And the beautiful definition in the book of Brené Brown of Atlas of the Heart, beautiful book. Boundaries is the space where I can love both you and me simultaneously. So very often we sit with bitterness, we sit with resentment, we have guilt with money. Yes. And the question is, it's not about the money. The money is just a tool. It's about that relationship. And it's the same in your workplace. If you're resentful about that exchange, if you don't appreciate the money that is flowing in from your employer or your clients, all of this emotions, money is energy. Money knows whether you are grateful, responsible with it, whether it has clarity and purpose. Money knows these things. And money is very good at making money babies when it's really taken care of.
Money babies. I love money babies. I love the energy because I've heard this before that money is energy.
Yeah.
And we know with energy what you give, you get.
Absolutely.
It is that simple. Coming back to self-advocacy, how can women reframe money conversation as a self-advocacy rather than as greed, which probably is what is inhibiting people from really being forthcoming with what they think they are worth?
So I think you must ground it in reality. The first thing is that analysis of knowing your own situation, knowing the market conditions, knowing your company's conditions. And then you start by putting your ask on the table. The only answer you can get is yes or no, or a little bit of negotiation. So see it as a game. I see it as a game. I don't make it C for serious. I go in with my best intention and your best intention. Our own hearts, our own intentions will become clear in these conversations. Often also, don't think it's going to take one conversation. Be open to have 2 or 3 conversations. You very well prepared. You walk into a room and you'll make your ask. Don't take the I'll get back to you as a no and go into a spiral. It is what it is. It means I now have to go to my budget and go and check how I can make this work and then come back to you. So always set that conversation up for a second or a third conversation. Don't expect an immediate answer. I think that's really important. And also loosen that answer from your worth. You are valuable regardless. And when you go in with that, people see that. I've recently had a renegotiation of a contract, and it was with the FD of the organization, and he was very respectful and concerned for my well-being. And when I told him, don't worry, it's fine, what is this space opening up for? He was cutting my contract a little bit. I always am selling to the next customer, and I know that this is not who I am, it's just what I do. So that makes it very different. Whereas if you make your job or your income your identity, those things can crush you. So it's very important that you know that you have worth. Money is money, work is work. You, money, and work are three separate things that are working together in a relationship to get you to be financially independent.
That makes a lot of sense, because I think you said the worst thing that people can say is a no.
Yes.
And there are people who do not dare to start having this conversation because they are avoiding a no. So you're saying one of the ways of seeing this thing and mitigating the effects, the spiral, is knowing that they're not saying no to you as a person. They're saying no to the proposal that you put in the table. Your worth hasn't been scratched or dented in any manner or form in this particular conversation.
Absolutely. And when you see it like that, when the offer you put on the table is loose from you, you can rework the offer. So you have flexibility to say it can be this or this or this. And suddenly it becomes a conversation finding a solution for the person on the opposite table and for yourself, instead of a yes or a no conversation.
I hear that. And I think for me, if that budget week, that financial planning is not in place, you will say yes to opportunities you should be saying no to.
Correct.
Because you do not know. Back to what we were speaking about, that when that direction is clear, daily decisions become easier than says, this one is for me, not this one, kind of.
Yes, and I'm going to speak numbers. When I
Sure.
started my consulting business, I was 22, and I was charging less than what it was costing me to do the work. And then I was on a business coaching program with the Business Women's Association, and I had Jenna Clifford as a mentor. And she was saying to me, girl, you're working for free. And I changed my rates. And then towards the end of my career, my big agency, when I had 100 people working for me and I was doing 40 million rand a year worth of business with large corporations, I also had to understand that the value of my time changed. As my skill grew, the value of having an hour's cup of coffee with someone for free, because people love free consulting, right? Yes. Was not my hourly rate of 1,200 rand. It was my annual target of 40 million rand divided by 12 months, divided by 22 working days, divided by 7 hours a day. That, by the way, is 36,000 rand an hour.
Jeez. It's real money.
You know, so when you start working with the numbers and you start getting comfortable with the large numbers and knowing what that value is and that target is, things change. Then it becomes very easy to say no to a cup of coffee that's not going to be mutually beneficial.
And a conversation for another day for women out in business, and especially in the kind of consulting business where you are the product, right? And therefore your time is what you are selling. So maybe it's a conversation for another day, because when is those free coffees enough? When,
Yeah.
There's always that, I'm saying this because of asking it for a friend. When is that enough where you're saying, now I've given enough free coffees, I'm moving on. My
Correct.
time is money, and it's but I guess it's a conversation
Yes.
to be explored.
Well, the same is true if you're an employee, right? If you're an employee, your cost to company has an hourly rate.
Yes.
Are you making the most value? Are you generating that hourly rate for your employer plus some? Because when I have an employee, I want them to generate what I pay them, plus the third of taxes and all that comes with it, plus my third for profit. So are you making 3 times your hourly cost for your boss? Because then you're a valuable resource. Oh. So it's not just, I always say, it's an exchange. It remains an exchange. It's an exchange, and we are here to be a beneficial presence and to create value. And if we know what those numbers are, we shouldn't be afraid of the numbers. We should name that number.
Great stuff. I love that. And now, Marie, with your work and having come across a lot of women, those that have made it and those that are struggling and those that are in between, are there any inspiring stories of some women you've met who successfully negotiated major deals or salary increases that would have shared with you, or your own personal for that matter?
So I have met incredible women, and some of the women that stays in my heart are people that I've met through the journey of raising Abashinshi. So I, for many years, worked with SAPI in their forests, managing the stakeholder relations between the communities around their forests and SAPI. And we had a very, very nice program. It's still ongoing. I just don't manage it anymore. SAPI is now managing it internally. For 9 years, I had the privilege of working with those rural women. And some of them earn up to 100,000 Rand a month from small businesses. So we went into those communities not saying, what can SAPI bring to you, but saying, what do you have? What assets do you have? Skills of the head, the heart, and the hand that you can turn into value. There's second-hand clothes sales businesses. There is a lot of catering businesses. There is car washes. And those women just inspired me so much because they live close to earth, close to God, and close to one another. And whenever I doubt anything about humanity, I get in my car and I go to the rural areas. And I just remind myself that there is always abundance, even in those rural communities where people sometimes have this scarcity mentality until they start mapping the resources that is available. And then you have to have the get up and go to get up in the morning and make that vet cook and have the conversation to sell it, or to just show up for yourself. And those women will always be my most inspirational beacon to show that any one of us who's got skills of the head, the heart, and the hand can turn it into money.
Love the skills of the head, the heart, and the hand. We all have it. We have abundance of it, as you're saying. There is so much abundance around all of us. As we're nearing our end then, Mary, of our conversation today, is there any piece of advice that you haven't shared so far, because you've been dropping all these nuggets all the way since we started? If there is one thing that you feel will be important to leave with our listeners today.
Don't be afraid of the numbers. Know the numbers. Know the money. Know the markets. Educate yourself. Read about finance. The myth. Let go of the belief that I am not financially savvy. Become financially savvy. And today is day one then of your financial education. And every day is a learning opportunity. So get out there and learn and educate yourself. And don't be afraid of the numbers. By the end of it, you need to be able to say, I love money, I love maths, I love numbers. And even if it's just your own, you don't have to do it for anyone else. Nobody else needs to know it, but love it for yourself.
Great. I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for such inspiring and practical words, Mary, because I have known you to be that pragmatic. What change are we bringing in our lives like today? It can't just be all inspiring and motivational without knowing what to do the next day. So I love that you have shared your wisdom with our listeners. And turning back to our listeners, thank you all for tuning into Conversations with My Daughters. And please remember taking control of your financial future and financial journey going forward. Start where you are. Mary said it's never too late. The fact that you didn't start at 22 or at 14, it's never too late. Start where you are today. Continuous learning is a thing. Advocate for your own worth and go thrive. Do what must be done. And don't forget to subscribe and share and follow us for more conversations that inspire and empower. Until next time, stay confident and keep making those money moves.